Afternoon. My name is Dwayne Brown, and I am the founder of Headshots Matter, and this is Studio Talk, an informal space where we get to chat with photographers, other creatives, and learn about their work, their photography, and their creative processes. Today we're joined by Paul Saxby, who is a portrait photographer based in the Nottingham region in the UK. Paul works with actors, musicians, creatives, corporate clients, and veterans, bringing years of experience and a thoughtful approach to his portrait photography. While much of Paul's professional work is created using modern digital cameras, he's maintained a career-long passion for analog photography. And today, we're going to explore just how that experience shapes his creative intent and how photographing with purpose can influence every frame regardless of the camera that we use. So bear with me while we bring Paul into the live. So that always gets a teeny tiny bit clumsy. So let me just look for Paul. Give me a moment. Paul, where are you? Paul. And let's see, there we go. Are we there yet, Paul? And there is Paul.
Hi,
Good
Dwayne. How are you?
morning, good afternoon.
It's good to see you, Dwayne.
Yeah, likewise, Paul. You're bearing the heat in England.
Yes, it's not. It is a little bit hot. Let's just move that a bit. No, yeah, it is a bit hot, but it's manageable. Getting used to it. So
Yeah,
I used to live in Cyprus. Lived in Cyprus for 3 years, so
that's
I can sort of acclimatized.
yeah, no doubt. So, Paul, for those folks who are not familiar with your work and your journey, maybe you can just walk us through, how long have you been shooting? How did you get into photography? And just a teeny tiny bit of, your story, your journey.
Yes, of course. I've been in photography for 40 something years now. So my first proper job in photography was working for a local paper when
Right.
I was still actually at school. So I did not long, but I did a little time with the local newspaper.
Right.
And I was attracted to that simply because the guy that was mentoring me had a fast motorbike. So it got really exciting because of that. But
Cool.
ultimately, a few years later, I ended up joining the Royal Air Force, became a military photographer.
Wow.
I was in the Air Force for 18 years. I originally intended to only join for about 18 months, and then life goes by. I did 18 years.
It does.
Left in 2006, set up my own business, and became a commercial and corporate photographer. After doing
Right.
another, I went back to press work for a little while,
Hmm.
and then became a corporate and commercial photographer.
When
I'm
you
now
were when you
currently
were in,
I've
sorry
I
sorry
now
to interrupt, Paul. When you were in the military, were you shooting while you were
full
you?
time professional photographer.
Wow.
Um, that's my the photography role at the time in the Air Force was primarily engineering and industrial work. That was our prime role.
Okay.
But we also did public relations, and because of my limited experience with press beforehand,
Mm,
I ultimately got streamed into press photography, public
right.
relations photography, and over the years I did more and more of that, and I ended up becoming part of the Royal Air Force combat camera team, which I managed for a little while,
Mm.
and we travelled the world and did public relations work on behalf of the Royal Air Force and the Ministry of Defence.
That must have been challenging and fun.
It was, yeah. I got to see over 60 different countries. I was living out of a suitcase for 6 years. I was involved with that, so I was extremely busy doing that sort of thing. So.
That's really cool. And then how did you transition into doing more private? Was that an easy transition for you?
I took ultimately I took voluntary redundancy out of from the Air Force
Hmm,
with the because I was spending so much time away from home. It wasn't comfortable. I wanted to be at home with family,
hmm, hmm.
so I took voluntary redundancy and took a post with a regional newspaper, and I was with them for a couple of years, and I
Right.
absolutely loved that
Hmm,
job. I really enjoyed it, but the paper was bought out by a external. It was actually a Canadian company. Actually,
hmm.
bought the newspaper group and closed the actual paper that I was working on at the
Right.
time. So I had to go and find other work. And ultimately, I ended up working back for the military again. So I'm now a
Hmm.
contractor working for a FTSE 100 company
Okay.
in my primary role,
Right.
but specialising in video. So
Okay.
on my main role is as video producer
Hmm.
for that company.
When you were doing the press stuff and when you were shooting initially for the military, it would have been 35 millimeter, or were you using
No,
medium
we
format?
when I started with the Air Force,
Hmm.
we were still using 5.4 plate and
Fo-
Rolleiflex TLRs.
you were shooting on a view camera, like a
Yes,
four by
shooting on view
five.
cameras
Oh my
and
gosh.
monorail cameras as well. So one of my earliest memories is shooting a group photograph, which included a Royal Princess Margaret at the time,
Nice.
and I shot that on a Linhof 4x5
Interesting.
camera. Yeah, so
You're speaking a language that maybe only some folks will understand what the heck you're talking about. But
yeah,
that's
yeah, it's quite
it.
specialist cameras, but yeah, really enjoyed that time because it was very hands-on, very
Yeah.
physical type work where you had
Hmm.
to think what you were doing all the time.
Yeah, that I guess that's you and I know each other, and I know that you have a passion for shooting film, and one of the conversations we had during one of our conversations was just about the intent that one needs to have when they're shooting film, and with that mindset, how that impacts today when we're shooting digital, like when you were shooting 4x5, or as you called it, 5x4,
Yeah.
Canadian Brit, is that you have to have an incredible amount of intention to everything you do with that image, right? The film stock, how many sheets,
Yes.
whether if you're shooting, medium format, how many rolls, what ISO, and then every single frame. You're not just shooting,
No, no.
crazy, right?
Yeah, my first boss in the Air Force, well, after you'd gone through training and gone through the school of photography,
Yeah.
um, um, ended up with my first boss, a guy called Bill Gawthorpe. I absolutely this guy is a
Mm,
hero to me because,
mm,
and I only realised it years later because when I arrived there, he would give me one roll of film a day,
mm,
and
mm.
that would be a roll of 12 exposures, 120.
Bloody hell.
And I was expected to do all my jobs for the day. So sometimes I'd do 4 or 5 different jobs on one roll of film. So I
Wow.
had to make sure each frame was correct. And he
Yeah,
did it
yeah.
on purpose because he made me think
Mm,
about what I was shooting.
mm, mm.
And it was a really good life lesson because it slowed me down. It
Yeah.
really slowed me down. I come from the press world. Even then, when I was shooting film for the press, in those days, we used to bulk load our own film.
Right.
And everybody knows that you buy 35mm film in 24 or 36 exposures. Well,
Yeah.
we would bulk roll down to 12 frames
Right.
because if you've got 5 or 6 jobs a day, it's
Mm,
easier to organise
right.
your jobs on individual rolls of film
Rolls. Sure.
rather than put them all onto one roll.
Makes sense.
And it also means you can manage your film easier as well, and you're not
Mm,
wasting film. So we would bulk roll our film, and I would end up shooting fewer and fewer frames
right.
for every job, and
Mm,
it just became a habit. So when we went to digital, it was like, oh, we can shoot as much as we want. We can
yeah.
shoot, we can keep shooting because it's free, and
Yeah.
that for a while was quite exciting.
Yeah.
But to be honest, when you get them back to your computer, getting back, you've got all these
Yeah.
images to go through, and
Yeah,
it,
it's
it becomes
not
hard
free.
work.
The currency is now time, right?
That's right.
To
Yeah.
go through to go through them.
Mm.
Um, you and I've been shooting for a similar amount of time. I started in the early '80s, and I remember when I went to photo school, the first year of photo school, you were absolutely everything had to be shot 4 by 5, and you were given so much sheets of film,
Mm.
and so you would go out on these assignments, and same thing, you'd shoot like 4 sheets, maybe less if
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
can, and maybe 6. And because they were expensive, and you had to load them, you couldn't just have an unlimited amount of frames, right? There's such limitations to the
Mm.
creative and technical process. But I think what it does, what it did for guys like you and I, is it really, it it it, it doesn't slow you down because you were never fast. You were always
That's right.
slow, but it just gave you such great intention to everything you did. Which I
Mm.
think is pretty interesting, and I like the idea and the concept. Now that if we can take that same concept to the digital age, to really think about we I'm sure you get this with your corporate clients, that it used to be like, oh, we'll fix that in Photoshop, and now it's
Mm.
like, oh, we'll fix that in AI. And I always say, well, I come from film days,
Yeah.
let's just fix it in camera,
That's right.
let's move
Yeah.
that hair or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
intention.
That's one of the reasons why I shoot like I do now. I although I still shoot a lot of digital, I would
Mm,
say the bulk of the work that I do for my
yeah,
own personal clients is digital. It has
yeah,
to be. Because film doesn't pay. It's not a business.
yeah,
So it's not sustainable in business really for
sure, sure.
because the demand isn't there. But
Hmm.
um, the the idea that we have to shoot a lot of pictures to give our customers choice is actually
Mm,
it's backward. Is if you
mm,
start at the beginning and you get to know your customer, you build a
mm,
relationship with your customer, you
mm.
can um, talk them talk with them to understand what their requirements are. Then you
Yeah,
just shoot what you need,
yeah,
and in my eyes, that's not
mm,
necessarily 2,000 images.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. One of
Newspapers
the things.
they didn't expect you to shoot. My picture editor would ask me to supply 2 pictures,
Hmm.
one vertical,
Hmm.
one portrait, one landscape,
Interesting.
and that would be all he needed for he or
Hmm.
she needed for that particular job. So
Yeah.
I just try and take that forward and use that because it's easier. Well, it's not easier, but I think it's more personal to work on
Mm-hmm.
getting an image right as soon as possible rather than trying to spend ages fixing it afterwards.
Yeah, I think what it does is it puts a lot of onus on us as photographers, that
Mm.
if every step of the of the of the process, we're being very careful with what we're doing. Right down to how we're lighting, how we're composing, how we're talking to the client, how many frames we're shooting, how are we selecting them, how many are we
Exactly.
selecting them, how many are we giving them. I think again the whole concept of intent is it's quite interesting. When I first brought the Headshots Matter project together, and I started meeting these photographers around the world, and I started to get a sense that there was this. I called it at the time a romance for film.
Mm.
I know Tom in London shoots a lot, Mike in Montreal shoots a lot, and there is a romance. But now what I'm learning is actually, I think it's more than that. It's really about kind of re-embracing the concept of creative intent.
That's right. Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
If
Um,
if you give yourself the time to
mm,
create an image in the first place, rather than just
yeah,
spray and pray, as a
yeah,
lot of
huh,
photographers do in the digital world,
yeah,
I think you can ultimately create a much better product for your customer.
yeah, yeah.
Whether you're using film or digital,
Mm,
it doesn't matter. There's some
mm,
amazing photographers out there shooting digital, which I
mm,
have huge respect for.
sure,
Some of them on Headshots Matter, there are some incredible photographers there, and I just
agreed.
wish I could shoot like them. But
Mm,
the for me, it's about the process. So
yeah.
it's the intent of, like you say, choosing a roll of film, choosing specifically one particular type of film that will take me through on this journey to produce a result, rather than taking a raw file and then choosing afterwards.
I'm gonna just interrupt for a minute. You had said that you wish that you might shoot like some other photographers, and what I want to say is that, again, when we come back to this concept of intent, is that also we all, as photographers, as image makers, creators, we all have our approach and our style, and your work, Paul, is beautiful. It's wonderful. And if anyone who's watching this is not familiar with Paul's work, it's www.paulsaxby.com.
.co.uk.
.co.uk, right?
Right, yeah.
And take a look and look at Paul's black and white, especially the ones of the veterans. They're beautiful, really quite lovely. I wanted to just tell a quick story that this reminded me of is the whole idea of shooting less and delivering less. A long time ago, we all know, people who are watching this all know who Mark Carney is, because he's kind of in the news like all over the place. Well, he has a relationship to both of us. He was the governor of your Bank of England, and he was the governor of the Bank of Canada as well, long before he became the prime minister. And while he was the governor of the Bank of Canada, I was the photographer for the Rand Report every year. And so I was hired to photograph Mark for all of the official portraits and for the end report. And the whole idea was his time is very valuable, so you're not going to be shooting lots. And all that I ever delivered, no matter if I was photographing him or other people, delivered only 2 photos.
Absolutely.
And because, again, if you're the photographer who has been hired to create the image, you're also the photographer who should have the talent and the eye for the selection as well. And I liked that. I was shooting digital, but it was still done with great intention. And I think it's kind of fun as a photographer, but it's also a greater responsibility too, which is okay, right? That's what we're here for.
That's great. Yeah. I had a few experiences like that over my career. For photographing famous people, I've had lots of royals over the years. I was actually one of the senior photographers for commissioned to shoot the Queen Mother's funeral. I was one of the official photographers for that, and I was I'm really, really pleased to have been chosen for that one. But more recently, I photographed our current Chief of Defence, and that was he was coming to us just for a normal corporate blue shirt, black tie, quick image. And while he was there, I said, "Sir, while you're here," we'd got quite a good relationship with him because we knew him fairly well anyway. I said, "While you're here, would you mind if I took a photograph of you using a film camera?" And he went. He'd originally only given me 5 minutes to do the shot, and we got talking about film, and he was with me for about 45 minutes, and we chatted away, and I took half a roll of HP5 on my RB67, and he loved them. He absolutely loved the pictures. So it was one of those experiences that I think it gives us an opportunity to talk, because people don't see cameras. Old film cameras very often. Just gives us an opportunity to talk about the old world, especially with an older customer. If you have an older customer, they'll remember them, remember old cameras. So
do you have is there an affinity or an attachment to a particular film? Is that something that like, was there a go-to film that was kind of close to your heart when you were shooting?
Yes, almost my entire career I've shot Ilford film. So, various types of Ilford film over the years. When we were shooting press work, it was almost default HP5.
HP5. And HP5 is 400 ISO, is that correct?
Box speed, it's 400.
Right. What does box speed mean? What does that mean, Paul?
Box speed, it's the native speed, what Ilford print on the box. Box speed.
And you could change that in how you handle it?
So one of the things about going through military photography training school is they teach you sensitometry, which is the science of light on and how light changes film.
Right.
And your box speed is only a film that the company will recommend you to use, but you can actually expose your film at any speed. All you have to do is change the development process. So the speed of the film is actually determined by how it's processed, not by what it's made of.
And it would also change the characteristics a little bit also, right?
Absolutely,
So
yes.
increase grain and
Yeah.
probably a latitude.
Yes, if you're pushing film, so pushing film is increasing the ISO as we do now. So HP5 natively would be 400. If we went to 800 or 1600, that's known as pushing. Now that would contrast to a degree. Now, if we went the other way, if we overexpose the film and then underdeveloped it, that's known as pulling the film, and that would do the reverse. So it reduces contrast, reduces grain size, and that tends to be what I tend to do most of the time because it's reducing contrast. It's actually helping you to keep detail within an image.
You know, I remember, I don't know when it was in the late 80s or 90s, and Kodak and Ilford were exploring how to reduce grain, and they were changing the grain structure.
That's right.
Which I guess some people liked, but as a photographer, it was like so terrible because we loved the grain, right?
Yeah, T grain technology was one of those new insights that everybody got excited about at the time, and then there were some of us old guys looked at the film and went, not quite sure about that. It's a little bit too sharp, but you know, it almost became digital to a point. You know, if you compare it with modern cameras. But I do use it occasionally. The Ilford equivalent is the Delta range of films.
Yes.
I will occasionally use Delta 100, specifically in 35mm, because it is really good tight structure, and it's really nice, and it's crisp, and it's useful in that respect. But to be honest, I do prefer the older technology films. So my two favourite films are Pan F Plus, which I rate at 32, and then Ortho
32, not 3200, 32.
32.
Oh my gosh.
And then Ortho 80, which is also an orthochromatic film, and I'll rate that about 50-ish. So,
my gosh, that's rather slow. Yeah,
it is. But a lot of the time I'm working on a tripod, so it's
of course, right? Yeah. And I guess that's another thing that we think about when we go back and look at photography from the 60s or 50s, even 70s. These photographers that were shooting, fashion or commercial or photojournalism, they were using slow films, like or they like the National Geographic guys. They're shooting Kodachrome, slow ISO, so slow shutter speeds, and it's not for the faint of heart, right? It's
No, I remember being shown. I mean, I've never used any myself, but I've shown a roll of Kodachrome 10.
Yeah.
So it's one of the incredibly slow films. So from I think it's from the 1920s or something like that. One of the early. I might be wrong on that, but it was a very old roll of film, and interesting. Nice.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw a quote. I'm gonna read the quote because I quite liked it, and it says that film is the doorway, not the destination. The destination is the creative intent, thoughtful decision making, and making photographs with purpose. And I quite like that. Right now everything's digital, but the photographers that are really kind of embracing film, I think there is a romance, but I think it's almost this kind of well-kept secret that it's not it's not just romance. It really does it is a doorway into just slowing the heck down and shooting with greater intent. I think it's cool.
That's right. When I'm shooting the corporate worlds, shooting that, you tether your digital camera to a laptop, and your customer you take the photo, and your customer can look at it on the screen instantaneously. Well, when I'm shooting film, sorry, I have to process it. It's going to, come back in a week. And
Paul,
it provides that separation, I believe.
Yeah, you've photographed quite a number of veterans, right? You were working on a project a little while ago, I believe. Were you shooting that personal project on film or digital?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of it was film. So I did shoot a couple of the jobs on digital, but that was just because of circumstances for the time. They were a bit ad hoc at the time, but the bulk of it was shot on film. Most of it on my Mamiya RB67.
6.7. So all black and white.
Yeah. And I shot a few on film on 35mm. Using my Olympus 35 SP, which is a rangefinder camera.
That's cool. Photographing these veterans, they must have appreciated that care that you took in the approach, right?
Yeah, one of the veterans was a World War II D-Day veteran, a Royal Marine that was on the D-Day landings. But there was all sorts of age groups there. So modern veterans as such, guys that had been injured in Afghanistan and Iraq, but also people in between, people that we did photograph veterans' families, people that had lost relatives through suicide and that sort of thing. So it was quite a project that started with just by chance. I did a portrait of one single veteran just to test a camera because I'd got this camera repaired, and I asked him, I just wanted to shoot some film, can I take some pictures? And that instantly grew to for me to be commissioned to shoot for an exhibition that ends up touring. And it must have
been humbling to photograph these men and women that have gone through and seen stuff that none of us can really imagine, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think people got that they were able to talk to me because I've gone through some of that as well. So on the combat camera team, I served in Afghanistan and Iraq on that. And prior to that, I was in Bosnia. So I had seen a lot of that myself. So I had a familiarity with it. And I think that's why people were able to open up to me and talk.
Trust.
But it is humbling. So there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot of trauma.
Well, good on you. I hope that you continue doing that, and that I know that you've those images were part of a presentation or a show, I think, a little while ago.
Yes.
Will you continue?
It was a touring exhibition. It toured around 15 different locations across the country. That's quite interesting.
Super cool. What advice would you give any younger photographers that are, catching this sort of bug of being romanced by film? Is there anything you would share?
Yeah, the one bit of advice is don't let it grab hold of you because too much, because it can become very expensive and quite addictive. I've got over 30 second-hand cameras, film cameras, and I keep having to stop myself from buying more or it can be quite addictive.
What's your favorite? I mean, what's your favorite?
This one here, I've got an old Russian Zorky 4, which I'm playing. I love old rangefinder cameras. So you just get. I've got fantastic. Loads of rangefinders. So I love them.
That's cool. Very cool. Do you still have a 4x5 or a 5x4? Have you?
I don't. I don't. But I do have a field camera. I have a Horseman 6x7 field camera. That occasionally comes out. I did a portrait with that last year. That was.
Where do you get the film for that? Like that's 6 centimeters by. Oh no! It still does on 120, right?
You still have it has a Graflex back, so you can put cut film holders into it. But you've also put a roll film holder on the back of it as well, and it folds out like with bellows and everything. So it is, but it's got a rangefinder built into it. So And then the lenses on it are amazing. I'd highly, if anybody wants to upgrade their camera, look at Horseman cameras if you want to look at film cameras, because they're actually relatively affordable, and the lenses are amazing, absolutely fantastic lenses.
Did you ever do any work with the Polaroid product? There was a positive negative film. I'm trying to remember the name of that film. I did a series of portraits.
55. Yeah, Type 55.
Type 55.
Yeah,
that's right.
I have used some Type 55 years and years ago,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really anything that I could play with. It was used for test shoots, and then we disposed of them. We disposed of those, and then would use a normal film just to make sure we got it right first. But,
what I used to like about
Type 55
that,
is incredible.
Yeah. When you pulled it, again, I had a fairly old 4x5 Polaroid holder, and when you pull the Polaroid through it, if it wasn't done really perfectly well, which was good, you'd get some kind of scuzziness on the borders and stuff, it was the coolest. So there's something wonderful about the randomness also that comes by shooting analog too, right?
Absolutely, yes. I shot a job about 6 weeks ago, and I hadn't. I'd got a roll of film that I applied for the job and used it. When I got back to from the job and went to process it, I realised I didn't have my normal developer, and it didn't have any left. I had a non-standard developer, a separate packet. So I normally used Ilford ID11 or ADOX Rodinol, and I was out of both of those. But I used, I had a packet, and a really, really old packet of microfilm, which is normally used for push processing, not for pull processing. And I pull processed it. So it was a bit of a guess how I processed it, but it came out, it worked. It worked. So it was okay.
How cool. You know, I heard a story when I was doing a little bit of research for our talk. I did a little bit of research on film companies, and one of the stories that I loved hearing is that Ilford, which is a UK company, right? When digital kind of came on stream, a lot of the film companies, they freaked out and they were trying to be everything to everybody. But Ilford didn't. Ilford said, we're fine. We're just going to keep staying in our lane and keep supporting the photographers who want to shoot film. And I just really liked that story. I would love to talk to them someday and to learn a little bit more about that, because I think that's an interesting, I guess that's a business commitment, but I like it, almost feel like a bit of a creative commitment as well. And it's about supporting the community who are the crafts people that love shooting.
Yes, Ilford have continued to invest in film all the way through. They still have, I believe they've recently invested in new processing facilities, which it's amazing. You would have thought that, given all the technology advances over the recent years, that they would be struggling, but apparently not. They're growing exponentially. So,
what city are they located in?
They're in I couldn't tell you exactly where they are, but they are central England, I believe. And they've got a sub company, the Kentmere, which is very popular. Kentmere is produces sort of budget range of films, which are really, really good as well, considering the price, significantly cheaper than their normal range of films. And I use quite a bit of Kentmere as well, because of the price difference on occasion, mostly for personal projects. But they're really good. They've recently invested in Harman as well for producing colour films. So the Phoenix range, which is good. I've not tried Phoenix yet, but apparently it's very nice.
I wanted to ask you a question about a photograph that you sent me, and then I posted it on Instagram last night. And it's I'm going to just bring it up on my computer so I can just kind of ask you a couple questions about it. It's obviously black and white, and it's very interesting. Like, it looks like a longer shutter speed. There's some movement in it. And if anyone's watching this now, well, you have to stay on the live, look at it later. But it's so interesting. And can you tell me a little bit about that image and how you did it, or why you did it, or a little
Yeah.
bit behind the
Well,
story?
I shot it as part of the Veterans Project exhibition because I
Okay.
felt, as a veteran myself, I thought I could
Mm,
contribute to the um, exhibition and sort of partly tell my story a little bit
hmm
as well as everybody else's.
Right.
And prior to that experience, for several years, I'd been suffering with small amount of anxiety and depression,
Right.
and getting waves of getting quite emotional at times, and that
Mm,
was an effort to try and explain
mm,
how I was feeling
mm,
with my mental health, and it was shot using my RB67 Ilford
mm.
HB5, I believe.
Right.
Long exposure. Yeah, I've got a bulb release for the RB,
hmm
so I just put it
hmm
on B, and
mm.
then my wife kindly used a fiber optic lamp adapter on a flashlight, and she just
Okay.
poured it over my face, and
Interesting.
that created
Mm,
those streaks of light all over me.
mm.
And
Super cool.
yeah, it's quite an experience being on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
So
But it's an image that is like it's abstract and it's hard to understand, but it's also emotional too. It's
yeah, yeah,
that's what I get from it. So yeah,
it
well,
was how I was feeling at the time.
yeah.
So yeah,
It it's I think we've gone down a little bit of a pathway here. Our world is full of a lot of upsetting stuff right now. Economics, geopolitical, all kinds of things. So it's a time where we all are harboring a certain amount of anxiety, and I think it's terrific that photography is a great gateway, or it's a great thing to lean on. I know my wife Jennifer and we do lots of photo drives and photo walks, and it helps us sort of kind of manage kind of things, and it's good, and I think photographers around the world are doing personal projects, things that are only personal and that they don't share with anybody, and I think it's really terrific. And I think if anyone is listening to this or watching this, and are they're dealing with things, I think photography is a great it's a great thing to be helpful. And even on that note, I know I've seen some comments come through, and I try to uh, see them, but I'm more into the conversation. If anyone has any comments about this or Paul's work or film, or questions for Paul, or questions for me, or questions about Headshots Matter, or just anything they want to say about film, analog, creative process, creative intent, this video will be shared after we finish with it, and then that's a great place for comments that can either be sort of kind of sent to Paul or sent to myself. Yeah, sorry, I went on a ramble there, but
that's all right. That's fine. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I'm happy to talk film all day.
yeah,
There's quite a lot of interest in my local community. People um,
mm,
nudge me, will you do a talk about this? Will you do a talk about that? Because I quite enjoy the experience.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I think maybe I think that might sort of wrap us up. One concept that I'll maybe leave us on is that as analog as film is, and it is, and that's why it's embraced. It's also a mindset in a way, and I think that's kind of cool, right? So that something that is so analog and you can hold in your hand is actually also something that's just more about how we feel, and I think
That's right.
that's a
Yeah.
pretty good combo, right?
Yeah. If we can all slow down a little, I think the whole world would be a better place. So,
I like that. I like that. That's good. Good advice, Paul. So thanks for doing this. I'm
You're
very
welcome.
grateful, and we'll keep the conversation rolling about it all. And I would really love to see you continuing your project with photographing veterans. They're
Yes.
lovely
Yeah.
portraits, and for anyone watching this, please spend some time on Paul's website to see his work. It's well worth the visit. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a great weekend. It's Friday, I guess. Yes, it's Friday, and thank you for this. And we'll chat more soon.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's
Okay.
good to chat, Dwayne. Take
Yeah.
care.
Likewise, Paul. Okay. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.